It's almost midnight, and of course, because it's almost midnight, my mind is going to be highly active. And I am reading the charts, and I'm like, you know what? We need to talk about haunted love or taunted love, right? Because most of the time in relationships, we do have partners that love in a very intense way, and some people don't understand it, and some people find it shocking. Some people find it exhausting, and some people find it a borderline, disordered. And of course, in our human world, there are all these types of labels and types of identifications, right? But then, obviously, when it comes to astrology, we do have a deeper understanding of why things happen the way that they are, why people love so intensely and so obsessively and just so taunting, right? And of course, I was listening to my go to music, so it's either I'm listening to Nakane or I'm listening to Labyrinth. So those two guys are my go-to guys, particularly in these hours, in these graveyard hours, right? Because with my Scorpio energy of Saturn and Moon, the graveyard hours are my hours for doing work and for being highly active and highly activated intuitively, just high alert. And because we do know, particularly those who really know astrology, not those who visit it, but like those who know astrology, you understand that Saturn is the character of the eighth house. What is the eighth house about? Is about the graves, right? The graveyard, where things, happen. They come to die, but then in the morning they get reborn. So so Saturn is all about that. The underground type of stuff. What is happening beneath the soul, beneath the ground, beneath the surface, beneath anything, really, right? That's certain. And Scorpio energy is all about going deep. It's not about our shallow connections. It's not about shallow understandings. It's not about shallow, superficial things or presentations or identifications, right? There's always depth in when it comes to Scorpio, and or anything resembling this Scorpio energy, that also meaning the eighth house itself. Now, when we talk about haunting love or haunting love, we need to understand where it's coming from, or what its meaning in our normal world, but from an astrological point of view. And of course, this is a Synastry Expert channel, and I am Mita, your astrology journalist, because I break the news before the news even happened. Now, in this topic of today, we're talking about Venus, because when we talk about love and relationships, we talk about Venus, of course. And that is the character of love and relationships and bonding and bondage and union and, spousal emotions and everything relating to unity and contracts. Now, I thought about this because I wanted to go back to me listening to one of the guys that I always listen to, Labyrinth, this time. he's got a Venus in Scorpio, and of course, his music is going to express this Venus in Scorpio that he has in his chart. His music is taunting, it's haunting, it's obsessive, it's about love that is just full of obsession and dangerous infatuations. In his music, he's always like presenting himself as this guy who's just so dangerously in love, and the way he presents it, his music is just also equally breathtaking and just deep and haunting and just wow, like it goes deep. And of course, this is why I like his music, because it's not shallow. It's really like vulnerable. There's the total vulnerability in his music. And most of the time when he creates music with Zendaya, or the songs that he has with Zendaya, I have felt like, oh my gosh, are they, do they have a connection? Do they have, a very deep connection? Because they create, this taunting music together that is just about vulnerability, going, deep. And last year I made a Synastry because I wanted to know. I was so curious. I'm like, oh my gosh, they create good music together. How are they in terms of Synastry? And actually, I just found that their Synastry is not so great. So I was not even interested to even pursue that. But then I kept on studying him because I wanted to study his Venus. He really has a strong Scorpio Venus. And I was just like, it's so funny how on the surface level we can identify people as, obsessed or jealous or, all of these negative identifications or labels, and of course they are based on reality, because they can be overwhelming for people who don't understand the depth of Scorpio, or who don't want to go deep into the depths of Scorpio. So of course, it's going to be too much, it's going to be overwhelming, it's going to be abusive, it's going to be haunting and just unbearable, because at the end of the day, not everybody likes to be in the graveyard. There is only always one person out of 10 people that is going to be at the graveyard. So it's going to be the security guy who is the only person there, and nobody else wants to go there. And people who do go there, they go there to visit their people, but during the day as well, not at night. So in the night, there's like that one guy out of million people who's picked by destiny or by, the universe to be the guardian of the graveyard. And of course, that guy gets used to the awkwardness of the graveyard, the silence of the graveyard, the depths of the graveyard, and also the unspoken things and emotions and the vibrations around him, right? And spooky things, because that's the Scorpio vibe. So now imagine that love, that Venus in such an environment. It can be extremely scary for a whole lot of people, because when it is professed in its negative way, as such as stalking, and whereby there's a rejection and the person cannot accept the rejection, this Venus in Scorpio can be obsessed, and stockish and just professed in ways that are too dark for a whole lot of people. For a lot of people. And so then how do you deal with a Venus in Scorpio, and how do you find positivity in it, and how do you bring it to light? So you do have this graveyard and you want to introduce it to people as something beautiful, and it's something enjoyable, it's something great, it's something that has gold or depth, that has a rebirth and spirituality, and finding yourself, whilst you getting lost. And because a lot of 8th house people as well, Venus in the 8th house regardless of the sign, do show these signs of this Venus Scorpio energy. And depending on the sign, this is where you see that there's also self-harm through this Venus in the 8th house. Because if you place here a Gemini sign, you place here a Virgo sign, you place here a Taurus sign, you place here a Libra sign, those types of signs, they are not going to survive most of the time in this Venus in the 8th house. And similarly, if you take Venus in Scorpio, you take the Scorpio sign and you place it in the 2nd house, you place it in the 7th house, you place it in the 6th house, you place it in the 3rd house, they're not going to be happy here. So all of these negative energies of Scorpio or the 8th house do come out in this way. So then again, back to the question, because we're trying to find a solution here. How do you heal such a Venus, or how do you express it in a positive way or in a beautiful way that everybody can enjoy and see it as art and see it as beauty and see it as something that you can experience and be revived through it to be something new, right? So the very first thing that you have to do in a relationship with such a Venus is to find a channel. What is the channel for? It is to channel through all of that passion or love or depth that is felt, and most of the time it is to be able to bring out your relationship. There are so many ways to bring art. Most of the time it is through movies, whereby you and your partner, you have your dedicated days and times, and you go out and you watch movies, and movies that are with the themes of this Venus that is in a complicated spot. Because what you're trying to do is you are saying, Venus, I acknowledge that you are in your depth zone of Scorpio, but for me as a partner of this person, it is too much, it is too scary, and therefore I allow it to come through and to profess its complexity, but in a safe manner, by enjoying, this horror movie together. And so all of that depth and scary taboo things can be experienced through art and not impact us physically as, in this relationship. It is a free solution. It is a doable solution. It does not need a lot of effort. It does not need a lot of investment. And also, then you don't want to go to the movies, but You can write. You can explore your depth through words and write poetry and express all of that depth that is felt. And like how Labyrinth is writing this beautiful taunting music, he's channeling all of that Scorpio energy into his music so that he does not have to stalk someone. He does not have to show his jealousy over people in real life. So this is the best, or one of the best things that people can do. It is to just rechannel the energy, because the energy will always be there and the energy will always require you to explore it. And if you don't necessarily explore it voluntarily, then this is when it professes itself in a very negative way, and you don't want that. So you do know, I have this energy, I cannot contain it, because the laws of physics, they tell us we cannot contain energy. We cannot destroy it, but I can channel it to there. Channel it to this direction. But it's not only Venus. It's not only Venus. There's also Pluto. There's also Pluto that brings these themes, because Pluto is also the co-ruler of the 8th house. And so where you see Venus conjunct with Pluto, you are going to see a lot of dynamics that show these normally unacceptable things. But then what does Pluto represent? Pluto represents transformation. What does that mean? It means that whenever you see Venus conjunct with Pluto, you must find ways yourself to bring in the transformation within your relationship, because should you not do this by yourself voluntarily, then this is when the transformation is forced upon you and you don't have a say, and you get scared because it is no longer serving you or for you, because it is forced upon you. So one of the best things is really to just voluntarily find ways that bring in transformation. I'll chat to you soon. I'll be into a ciao.